of the Northern Ute tribe of the Uinta and Ori Reservation. The Uinta and Ori Reservation is located in Fort Duchesne, Utah, approximately 150 miles east of Salt Lake City, Utah, along Highway 40. The reservation encompasses a 3-county area known as the Uinta Basin. It is the second largest reservation in the United States and covers over 4.5 million acres. The infamous Skinwalker Ranch is located only a few miles from here. The Northern Ute tribe has a membership of almost 4,000 people, of which the majority live within the reservation boundaries. You will pass through some of the most beautiful land in the world. The Northern Ute tribe of the Uinta and the Ori Reservation is made up of 3 distinct Northern Ute tribes: the Uinta Band, the White River Band, and the Ori Band, historically known as the Uncompahgre Band. Almost 4,000 people are enrolled members of the Northern Ute tribe. Collectively, they are the Northern Ute tribe of the Uinta and Ori Reservation. These bands once lived in an area spanning from the Wasatch Front, Salt Lake City, to Denver, Colorado. They are all indigenous to what is now Utah and have lived in the area since time immemorial. The Uinta Band of Utes lived in what is today the Wasatch Front. They had no close contact with whites until 1847 with the arrival of the Mormons. As more and more settlers arrived, the Utes began being forced off of their lands. Animosity grew between the Mormons and the local tribes. The Mormons were brutal to the Utes. Attacks committed by the Utes continued. On October 2, 1853, a number of Utes arrived at a Mormon fort seeking protection. The townspeople slaughtered the Utes and then reported the deaths as lives lost during a skirmish. The fighting and bloodshed would continue until the Uinta Utes were removed to the Uinta and Ori Reservation in the late 1860s. The United States government did not buy or compensate them for their land. After World War II, the Indian Claims Commission ordered the government to pay for the confiscated land. The White River Utes lived in Colorado. They ceded all of their land to the Central Rocky Mountains as an influx of gold and silver miners began arriving on Ute land. In 1878, Indian agent Edward Meeker arrived. Meeker, in an attempt to teach the Utes the civilized ways of the agrarian white man, he forced the Utes to plow up their land where they kept their ponies. He also decided to emphasize his point by having many of the ponies slaughtered. In Meeker's mind, if there were no ponies, the Utes would have to stop hunting and begin farming. If then they still refused to work, he would withhold rations and starve them. In 1879, Meeker wrote an imaginary dialogue with an imaginary Ute woman. He was attempting to show how the Utes could not comprehend the joys of work or material goods. During this dialogue, he said that the reservation belonged to the government and was only there for their use. And he gave them the stern warning that if the Utes did not use it, then the whites would come and take it away, and then they would have nothing. Meeker sent this to the Greeley Tribune in Colorado. William Vickers was an editor, elite politician, and secretary to Frederick Pitkin. Pitkin, who would become governor of Colorado, had also been the leader of a campaign to have the White River Utes removed from their homeland in the Colorado Rockies. The fictitious article was published as a true account and was used as propaganda to remove the Utes to the Uinta and Ori Reservation. To further expedite the removal of the Utes, Vickers wrote other editorials with lies, blaming the Utes for several of the Colorado forest fires and burning down the house of a former Ute agent, James B. Thompson, further exacerbating the anti-Ute sentiment of Coloradans. The Utes had enough and confronted Meeker. One of the tribal members pushed Meeker, and this terrified him of what the Utes would do to him, so he sent for the cavalry. When the soldiers arrived, they were met with resistance and gunfire. This became known as the White River War. The Utes then killed Meeker and every white in the agency. Then they set fire to the building and burned it to the ground. By 1886, all of the Utes had been relocated to the Uinta and Ori Reservation. The upper Colorado Basin was inhospitable and tension arose between the 3 bands. Removal and consolidation created problems between the 3 bands, including suspicion and jealousy over land, money, and lost opportunities. In 1897 and again in 1905, the reservation was opened up to non-Indians and the government began allotting 80 to 160 acre parcels to individuals for farming. This reduced the Ute landholding by 85%. More land was lost when expensive irrigation systems were built. This did not improve farming on the reservation. In 1906 to 1908, 400 Ute fled to South Dakota. Later, the Sundance and Pietism helped bind the Utes in a form of long-term resistance. In the 1950s, the Utes won multiple legal battles and received $32 million in reparations for their land losses. Today, they have many businesses, continue to raise cattle, and mine and natural oil and gas. Prior to the Indian Reorganization Act of 1934, the Northern Utes had little say over how their government was run. Civil servants received little or no input from the Utes themselves, meaning the Utes ultimately had to adapt. In 1927, 6 representatives from each Ute band elected the first Ute Tribal Business Council. The Indian Reorganization Act of 1934 allowed them to drop a constitution and bylaws and gave them new jurisdiction over tribal lands, assets, and leases. White leadership versus Northern Ute leadership was vastly different. Whites pushing their ideas of leadership created chaos and confusion between not just the whites and Northern Utes, but between Ute leadership. The passage of the Indian Reorganization Act in 1937 allowed the Northern Ute tribe of the Uinta and Ori Reservation to create their first constitution and bylaws and start exercising their inherent sovereignty. During the 1920s and the 1930s, the Northern Ute tribe organized a business council with elected representatives from each of the 3 bands. They became incorporated as the Northern Ute tribe. The elected committee chooses a chairman who will serve as an executive officer of the Northern Ute tribe. Women have been an integral part of the Northern Ute Tribe Business Council and have served since 1936. The Northern Ute Constitution is the first of their governing documents. It is set up much like the United States Constitution with some major differences. Rather than discuss the powers vested in Congress, as is Article 1 of the United States Constitution, the Northern Ute Constitution clearly shows what is most important to their way of life: territory. This includes tribal jurisdiction of criminal and civil matters. It is important to note that the Northern Ute tribe has never consented to giving the state of Utah jurisdiction, either civil or criminal, within Indian Territory, country, and the lands or any portion of the lands within the state of Utah. Article 2 of the United States Constitution discusses the executive branch, whereas Article 2 of the Northern Ute Constitution discusses membership. Both Article 1 and Article 2 of the Northern Ute Constitution is about exercising sovereignty. Article 2 of the Constitution discusses membership. The Northern Ute tribe has the strictest membership criteria of any other tribe. It requires a blood quantum of 5/8. That means that 5 of 8 great-grandparents must be full-blooded Northern Ute in addition to the above criteria. There are other strict provisions in the Northern Ute Constitution. You can view it in its entirety by clicking this link. Arthur Fisher is the chief judge of the Uinta and Ori Reservation, and Jeffrey Kurtz is an associate judge of the Uinta and Ori Reservation. I could not find any information about the names of the appellate court judges or the wellness court judges or the juvenile court judges. The Northern Ute tribe does have a wellness court, and it emphasizes personal responsibility and accountability by providing mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual healing for the community members, offenders who struggle with substance abuse and addiction. The Law and Order Code of the Ute Indian Tribe of the Uinta and Ori Reservation in Utah is a separate document that lays out all of the codes covering civil, criminal, and juvenile laws. The Northern Ute Tribe has an appellate court and a juvenile court that is governed by the Law and Order Code of the Ute Indian Tribe of the Uinta and Ori Reservation. The entire document can be found. These are pictures of the interior and exterior of the tribal court building. It also houses a jail. The 3 bands of the Northern Ute of the Uinta and Ori Reservation have all survived their own tumultuous histories. They have had, at times, conflict with each other while living on this reservation. Now they work together as a vibrant, sovereign nation where instead of outsiders having agency over them, they have agency over their own people, their own land, and their own future. In a world of ever-changing politics and values, the Northern Ute of the Uinta and Ori Reservation live by traditional values, strong ties to their culture, and a positive look to the future. Thank you for watching. The 3 bands of the Northern